Back on the road with the Kaufman Corner podcast with you as always, David Lesky from Inside the Crown, Les Norman from Breaking the Norm, former Royals outfielder. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB as we talk Royals baseball here on a Thursday morning. If you're catching us via the podcast, remember you can be a part of the stream. 8:30, bright and early. Let's go. For the early birds, we are rocking and rolling. You can be commenting away to your heart's little desire, your heart's biggest desires. You can make comments during the stream if you'd like. Just catch us mornings at 8:30. Follow me on Twitter. You'll see all the different links to all the different platforms. Going to talk about the Royals being swept by the Yankees. What do we learn from that? What do we think the final numbers are going to be for a Chris Bubich? What is the date that you officially dump MJ Melendez, Hunter Renfroe? You know, MJ did hit a homer. Les is going to break that down. You know, when you close your eyes and swing as hard as you can, sometimes you run into something. Or no. Has it all been figured out? We'll talk about that. What would it take for the Royals to move on from Alec Zumwalt? His role in the offensive struggles for the Royals. We'll talk about. Should the Royals have tried to move Lugo over Brady Singer? Singer's off to a fine start. We'll talk about that, kick it around. What's the proper way to use Daniel Lynch? What's the earliest we could see Jac Caglianone? We're talking about it right now, right here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner Podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Les Norman is a former Royals outfielder. He's the host of Breaking the Norm with Les Norman on Sports Radio 810 WHB, as well as the author of Teaching the Tools of Hitting. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it, get with Dave and he'll have you covered. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro.
Thank you, Curtis. We do appreciate it as we are off and running. And boys, a sweep in New York is not what you wanted. I was planning on 4-6 on this road trip. They dropped 2 out of 3 against Cleveland, kind of what I expected. I thought 2 out of 3 against the Yankees in a series that, you know, you can make a case that they could have won. They were leading late in both the last 2 games. Very winnable. Instead, they drop all 3. What's the takeaway from losing 3? Baseball happens. No big deal. Let's move on. We're obviously going to highlight the offensive issues. Any other takeaways from being swept at the hands of the Yankees in New York?
Well, the thing I guess we could talk about is that we should and are supposed to learn through adversity, right? And this road trip is definitely the baseball definition of adversity. Obviously, it exposed what we've continued to know, that offensively, it doesn't matter if you score early, you have to keep it up. And over the last 9 games, this Royals team has struggled offensively. It looks like we're having to hitch our wagon to the pitching staff all the way through. And the confidence in middle relief still isn't awesome either. So we're relying on starters and then the back end a little bit. And so I think that what this reveals is what we knew about the corner outfield, that needed to be addressed. It reveals that this team is not a very good hitting team. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. looks focused. He swings at pitches he should. Even when he misses a pitch that he should have hit, it's an aggressive attacking swing on a pitch that you should swing at. And a lot of the other guys, I mean, each day they post the lineup. And I know you guys probably see this on a consistent basis. Until we started doing this, I didn't look at the lineup in advance. I just turned the TV on and saw it. And now I'm checking it out in advance. And for days on end, I'm shaking my head like, man, I want to pitch against this lineup. And so I think we reveal, and I wasn't a pitcher after high school, and that act got tired quick. So I think that we're seeing that what they should have done in the offseason, they didn't do, or what they couldn't do, even if they tried. And this may not be quite the team. I wish it would, but it may not be the team that pushes into the playoffs. I know it's early, but again, you got to take some signs from what you're seeing.
Yeah, we do have to take some stock in the fact that this is a more difficult schedule than they started with last year, right?
Yes.
There hasn't been that shining 3-0 to drop in against the White Sox. And maybe the question, though, is, David, is the confidence being rattled, right? Like, I mean, that we talk about, it's not just who you play, it's when you play it. This is a team that we definitely believe, I don't think anyone would disagree, has more belief in what they're doing after last year, right? This is not a 106 loss team that really needed to get off to a good start. You could see that go south bad, but doubt creeps in for everybody. I don't, and maybe the Yankees are a unique case because the Yankees handled them in a playoff series, and so there's a let's kick the can around. Oh, it's the Yankees, big payroll, and they can do better than us. Or is it more than that? I guess we're going to find out, right, against Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with you. I think that last year was more important to get off to a good start than this year because they didn't know. I've said this before. They thought they were good last year. They didn't know. This year, they can come into the season saying, I know we're good. I'm not sure if they still know that, but on March 27th, they took the field against the Guardians, and I think they can safely say we're a good team. We made the playoffs last year, all that. So a slow start is not as bad as it would have been last year because that would have been, oh, here we go again. But yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to win a game. And I do think that, what do we learn? Pitching's good, generally. I think we learned that. I think we learned that if they can – I feel like if they're just a not all-time bad offense, they're going to win some games. But right now they're an all-time bad offense, and yeah, I mean they need to turn it around. I said before the season, you got to get to 10 wins in these first 23 games. Well, if they had won one in New York, I'd feel very confident they were getting there. Now they got to split with the Tigers, who are playing exceptionally well. Although I guess they did just lose a series to the Brewers, but it's not a great spot to be in for them. And I mean, there's a world if this spirals, and this is a much bigger conversation, but if this starts to spiral, at what point do you say, hey, let's jump the market and sell? Let's give Seth Lugo, let's dangle Chris Bubich. He's a free agent after next year. Bigger question, but they're not far from that conversation if things spiral in Detroit, and they need to turn things around quickly. It does get a little easier after Detroit, but it's 4 more games. They need a split in Detroit, I feel like, and I'm not confident that will happen, given the pitching matchups at least.
Yeah, it is, and this is a big one. You want to salvage something. If you go 3-1 in this stretch, you can still get home. And have a 4-6 trip, which I think most people would take. Road trips, you make up ground when you're at home. It does get a little bit easier, at least by record-wise. Some of the names of the teams are going to be scary. The Astros are a scary team, but they don't look like they're as good as they've been in years past. But if you could get to 4-6, again, I was like 4-6, I'll take it, no problem. I'm content with that. Let's do the damage at home. 5-5, I'm happy. 6-4, I'm thrilled. Well, 6-4 is not going to happen. Like I think we all feel pretty good. Well, I know mathematically it's not going to happen, right? So I can confirm that. I don't think you want to put too much pressure. That's a problem. I think it gets hard. Like when you head out on these 10-game trips, you have these things you want to do. They start to slip away. And so you're trying to win 2 or 3 games on one night when really make sure we get a split. Let's get those first 2 against Detroit, and then we'll go for the series win. At what point does it start to weigh on them? Okay, we're below 500 and they're not trying to just win. They never, what was it? What was the low watermark last year, David? Wasn't it about 2-4?
Yeah.
So
they won 7 in a row immediately and never went under 500 again.
Yeah. It's fine if they're just as confident or if they're more confident, but the question is, are they confident enough to handle having to dig out from 5, 6, 7, 8 games below 500? I don't think they're at that point yet.
Yeah.
And
go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I think that it is a confidence issue. The one thing that I will say, and I think that Matt Quatrero every manager gets a lot of hate from fans. Any decision is scrutinized, especially when you become a good team, which the Royals theoretically are. Still, I don't think that we can determine that they're bad yet. It gets scrutinized even more. But I think the thing that Matt Quatrero does exceptionally well that nobody sees, the public doesn't see, is his motto of today is not a word. It's not a word that he just throws out there and doesn't actually believe in. They are very much in the one game, one day, this is right now mindset. And I think that's where the leadership of this team comes in, and I think is a positive, because I don't know what would happen if they were 9-22. I mean, maybe that would change things, but I really do believe that the leadership and the way and their, I'm trying to think of the word, I'm blanking on a word here, but what they preach is they believe it. And I think that will really help them get through this, because they're going to hit eventually, right? They're not going to score 2.8 runs a game or whatever it is. It's not going to happen. And that's where I think that they benefit, because I think Matt Quatrero and his staff they're really good leaders in that sense.
Yeah. Les, how about the importance of not getting just too buried, at this point with this team, and it's, where it's at in its evolution.
Right. And I think maybe, David, I don't know if this is the word you're looking for, but for me, as you're searching for a word after leadership, it's just baseball maturity of being able to handle situations and not getting caught up. Look, we're all a victim of the idiot police in the public eye. I mean, when the Royals stink, the idiot police are out there saying, gosh, they suck, they're horrible, they're the worst. And then when they start to turn it around, then it's guys like us who become, boy, you guys suck, you pick them to lose and all that. And so we get that. And so, yeah, I love the leadership of Q in the fact that it is one game at a time. It is early enough where they can start hitting and they can start turning things around. And that's fantastic. It early in the season, that's a beautiful thing. The problem is that we just see the patterns of it. David, earlier you were talking about what you saw that's coming in this Detroit series, except for the pitching matchups. Well, the pitching matchups could be completely favorable for the Royals. But again, if you're not hitting, then that it just doesn't matter. And so for me, I have to look at when is early enough or still early. When does it become, okay, now forget early. Now it's not a panic button by any means, but you have to start assessing real adjectives on this team. Are they bad hitting? Do they suck in the bullpen? Whatever it may be. And so there has to come a time where you and I know we're going to talk about this, you have to start making moves to improve this. We'll talk about moves and all those things, but we're approaching 100 at bats sooner than later. That stuff piles up quick. I mean, by the end of this series with Detroit, these hitters are going to start to be getting closer into that 75 at bats, sneaking into 100 at bats. And that's when you really have to start making that assessment. And so, I mean, we're not at the panic point yet, but it's that teeter-totter. Which way is it swinging? Because it's also a time to start really putting real the adjectives we talked about or real assessments on, is this going to be okay or not? And right now, offensively, it really is a struggle. And this points to there has to be some maturity, but yet there also has to be some moves that are made. That's also a part of leadership.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they're going to be tested, right? For Detroit, and then they get a chance, like we said, to maybe take a deep breath, come up for air with a decent homestand, and maybe they can right the ship and get things going in the right direction at that point. We'll find out when they do come home. We find out a little bit about Chris Bubich, right? Last night, 5 1/3, 7 hits, 3 runs, 4 walks, 6 Ks, 94 pitches to get through 5 1/3. That's kind of what they do, right? That's how the Yankees, make you work and they grind you. Was looking like he was going to be the stopper. But then, eventually it kind of wears him down, like I said. What do we think those final numbers are going to be? Still a beautiful 1.88 ERA, right? But, not the overwhelming velocity that most guys would have at his age if they're going to hang 1.88 ERAs. And I don't think anybody's expecting that. But I think there is kind of some hope that he'll be, maybe not Cole Reagans, but he could be the Seth Lugo this year. Is that too much to ask for? Like, what do you think as you look at Chris Bubich and look at his ability to pitch? And he had some Yankee batters looking stupid at times too last night. I mean, let's be clear. I don't want to minimize what he did last night, because it was like, if you told me this is what he was going to give you, I'd take it before the season, right? Like that's a solid outing against a lineup that can create some problems. And he's left-handed, against some guys that have pop, right? Aaron Judge, that's a scary proposition there. So what do we think at the end of the year Chris Bubich is going to look like numbers-wise? What kind of ERA are you feeling? I mean, what do you think they've got in him right now?
Well, I look at last night as him trying to pitch to a small ballpark. I don't think that was a norm. So if that game last night with that lineup is in Kauffman Stadium, I think it's a little bit different. I mean, you still got to throw the same pitches and all that, but even his 99 fastball at times when he would start to pitch backwards where you might think a slider's coming or a changeup is coming, he zips a fastball at 92 and sneaks it by somebody. And so I think he gets it. The sad part for me is I'm going to say that I'm looking for, he's maybe 500, maybe 2 or 3 games over 500, but that's not based on his ability or lack of ability. For me, it's based on the offense that he has to work with. And a lot of these pitchers might not say it, but you get to a point where you know your offense isn't scoring very many runs. You know you're going to try to heap that on your shoulders a little bit. We kind of talked a little bit about that last time. And so I feel like Bubich is going to be at that 5, a little bit above 500 mark, but I still like the way he's pitching. I don't think yet he still is at his best most consistently because he's still, even though he's good enough to miss with a slider and still sneak that outside corner that way up and away. He's not afraid to come inside. He's not afraid to pitch the right way. He still hides the ball really well. And again, like you said, plain simple fact that he's left-handed. So I think I want to see a few more starts for him in Kauffman Stadium, at other parks that aren't like a Yankee Stadium where you feel like you have to pitch and in the back of your mind, well, I don't want to give up a pop-up down the line because then it's going to be a 3-run home run. So I think he is pitching fearless. I think his stuff's there. His fastball velocity will come, but if it doesn't, he's talented enough the way he's pitching inside and outside, mixing his pitches. Salvi's calling a good game. I think he's going to be okay. If this was a team that was hitting a little bit better, I'd give him a 15 to 17 win season. That's just probably not going to happen because of this offense.
What do you see, David, in Chris Bubic? What does it look like at the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I thought last night the issue was just his command wasn't there, and which is really telling that his stuff is good enough to overcome bad command. I mean, it wasn't a bad start. It wasn't a great start, but he left some pitches out over the middle, and then he couldn't throw strikes sometimes. So that was a bit of a struggle for him. You know, I look at a list from 21 to 24 of left-handed pitchers who averaged less than 94 miles per hour. And there's 29 of them, and only a handful struck out more than a batter per inning. And I think that's what I think Bubic from last year in the bullpen and what we've seen in his first 4 starts, I think that we can safely, I don't know about safely, but I think we can assume that he has a chance to strike out more than a batter per inning. And I know that strikeout percentage is a better number, but just bear with me. All those guys who do it were ERAs in the 2s and 3s. And it comes down to, we've talked about this before. If you can get strikeouts, if you can get swings and misses, you can succeed. And last night he had 14 swings and misses. I mean, he was fine last night. He just had a hard time putting the ball where he wanted to. And I think that we've seen from him that he generally will not have that issue. And if 3 out of every 4 starts, he has good command, and the one that he has bad command, he gives up 3 runs in 5 1/3 and one of the best offenses in baseball. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to have a 1.88 ERA all year, but I really think that he can put up a 2024 Seth Lugo type season and with more strikeouts. So I don't know. I don't know how many innings he's going to throw. It's funny if you had asked somebody after in the offseason who leads the Royals in innings pitched when everybody's got 4 starts and Lorenzen hasn't had his 4th yet, but he's not going to get there. Nobody would have guessed Chris Bubic, and he has a third of an inning more than Cole Reagan. So we'll see. We'll see if he can maintain it. He hasn't done it. I think his career high is like 150, including the minors. So I don't think that he can't surpass that. We just don't know that he can. But everything that we've seen, he's going to have a good year. And if yesterday was probably his worst start, that's pretty solid. Yeah. And I think to your point, Les, you pitch differently in that park. You absolutely do, whether you admit it or not. And I thought he looked fine last night, and I think that I have no concerns moving forward. So I would guess, low 3s ERA, 175 innings, something like that. That checks out to me. Maybe a Sean Manaea type season.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of feeling. 350 in that range. But you mentioned it. I judge a guy on his bad day. Like Seth Lugo had a tough day, gave up 4 home runs, and he gave up 4 runs and went 6+. Like, give me that all day if that's your bad day. The problem, you can't get down on the pitching, and I think it's important for them to not get down on themselves when the offense isn't scoring, because you start going out there trying to win games 1-0, 2-1, and that you've got to do your job. At some point, the offense has got to do their job, right? And the organization's got to fix it. Problem is, does it start to become a mental thing, and do they start trying to do too much? We will see if that is the case. When it comes to your insurance, David Starnes Allstate Insurance has got you covered. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. At Whataburger, the flavor you've been asking for is back. For a limited time, check out the chicken fajita tacos or grab the Monterey Melt with all those same great flavors you've been missing. Also for a limited time, check out the all-new Mexican hot chocolate coffee. Or you can try the Mexican hot chocolate shake. That's right, sweet, rich cocoa, warm Mexican cinnamon, notes of brown sugar, and a light kick of chili, swirled in a creamy blend of vanilla ice cream. And don't forget, you can get all your Whataburger favorites and more by downloading the Whataburger app with the QR code. All right, let's talk a little bit here about the hitting. You know, we tried to bury it, didn't want to, rinse and repeat. Les, first of all, did you see anything? MJ Melendez hits a home run last night. He had 3 strikeouts going into his last at-bat where he almost tucked one down the line to give the Royals life and maybe tie the game, but ends up in the outfielder's glove. What did you see on the home run and of late? Any signs of progress with MJ Melendez?
The interesting thing is during the televised broadcast last night, they put an MJ Melendez and then an MJ Melendez side by side, and it's like they were going to start talking about what the differences were, and they were exactly the same. There was no difference whatsoever. So look, we'll talk about the home run. First of all, yes, it's hard to hit a baseball, but still a big league hitter, even though he's struggling. That pitch was literally outer half-ish or close to right down the middle, threw it the same bat speed he had, and he ran into it, and that's great. It was a bomb to dead center field. I'm happy for you. Way to go. That's amazing. But then if you look at some of the other at-bats, he can't get to an outside slider, change-up, curveball. He's still swinging at bad pitches on balls that are inside. He swings at bad pitches and then loses his footing all over the place. He can't stay there. If you look at the Cody Bellinger double that he hit when he was down the line, when he hit it down the line, it was way inside, wasn't a strike, but he was able to keep his feet there and trust his hands and go inside. So there's still more movement there. So I'm not saying the home run was a fluke, but on that swing, it was that perfect storm of he threw it right where he was swinging over the middle of the plate. He kept his head still, and all he did was just extend his hands and caught up to the pitch. I think any one of the three of us could do that. And again, hitting is hard, and that's not like an immature insult. I'm just saying at some time a pitcher's going to throw a ball where a big league hitter is swinging. You just have to be ready to do it. You have to look at the at-bats collectively. And the rest of those, the at-bats, he's still swinging at the bad pitches. His feet are all over the place. And when his feet are all over the place, his head is still moving. I want to stand up here in the studio and show you, but I can't do that. But it's the same thing. There really isn't any adjustment except for one particular pitch. And I'm wondering, do the Royals now think, okay, we'll see, it's there, so we're going to go ahead and give him a chance? He's still hitting below 100. And on the line drive, now remember, he almost got that, but that was a hanging split by Cruz. And it was a split is a slower pitch, and those seem to be the ones oftentimes that he'll get a bat on. Even though he hit the home run on a fastball, he was still out front. If he was able to stay back and read it and keep his front side in and go down here, that ball goes over the wall, and the Royals probably win that by one run. And so there's still a lot of holes in that. I mean, I think he hit 17 home runs but still ended up hitting like 197 to 205, somewhere in that zone. So again, get excited about the home run, great. But collectively, there's still an issue with his mechanics that are just not being solved right now.
Yeah, it's not. It was fluke, right? Not progress, David. Is that the way you would see it? That's what I hear from Les.
Generally, yes. But man, it was nice to see a fluke, because he wasn't even getting a fluke before that. It was brutal. And And I thought his swing on the line out a couple innings later was actually better than the home run swing. It looked to me a little bit cleaner. If I'm the Royals, I'm sending him down today, and I'm saying, hey, take the video of that line out, and you're going down for a month. You do not need to press because you can't get back up here before then. And you work on this, watch this video every day, not the home run, the line out, and work on that in Omaha because, and in a month we'll reassess. And if everything's working out, you're going to come back up. Don't worry about anything. Just go down there and hit for a month. I don't think they're going to do that, but I thought that, the home run seemed a little bit flukish to me. I thought the line out was a better swing to me. I agree yesterday too on the ball down the line, the Bellinger catch would have been great if it fell in for sure. But he's the nice thing is he guessed and got lucky for the first time. I'm not lucky. There's no luck in hitting a big league home run. Let's be real. But he hadn't even guessed right in the first 3 weeks of the season. So it was nice to actually see him at least guess right once. But yeah, I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock into it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of interesting comments. Noah John says, hitting below 100, dear Lord, this experiment is over. And why the hell even have a AAA developmental side if not for this exact scenario? And I do agree. I mean, I always wonder what the rest of the guys in the clubhouse are thinking. Like, why does this guy get a free pass? What's your guys down in Omaha that are hitting are going, why is he up there and I'm down here? What is the point of working hard down here? What is the point of succeeding down here if it doesn't translate into getting up there? And this guy has a lifetime pass. Wes?
I thought that. When I was in AAA raking, hitting 360, 370, I was, sorry to interrupt, but I was thinking the same thing all the time. When this guy's getting chance after chance, he's hitting 190. What more am I supposed to do? And that sends the message that we're sticking with the guys that we want to stick with, and this becomes not about development.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem. I mean, by the way, in Omaha last night, if you want to look at what's going on, Joey Wiemer quietly starting to do a little better. He had his best game of the year, 3 for 5 with a couple of runs, a couple of RBIs, a homer and a double. Mark Canha 0 for 2 with a couple of walks. John Ray went 0 for 5 with 2 Ks. He's the guy that's had the best numbers. And Nelson Velasquez 0 for 4. Canha, we know, will be on his way. He's just in the rehab part of the equation. Didn't get a hit, but did walk a couple of times. But Joey Wiemer, it's, there's no one who's red hot down there, right? They brought that guy up in Drew Waters, and they're doing whatever they're going to do with Drew Waters. There is not, since they don't seem to believe in John Ray, they don't seem to have the answer, right? And I think that does send a message to all those guys. Well, you're not the answer, Velasquez at least got a shot last year. Wiemer's had a cup of coffee, elsewhere, but hasn't had his chance here. Wiemer's the guy you'd like to see hit, right? Like if he can get going, that's the guy, David, that maybe could be the answer, right? Even though I didn't hear huge optimism, I didn't hear pessimism about him, but I think there were a lot of Royals fans that wanted to believe he was a big part of that trade. And when I heard that trade analyzed, I did not hear, man, and Wiemer, we weren't going to do it without Wiemer, right? Like that wasn't. I bring that up just for context of expectations for the player.
Yeah, I mean, what I heard, probably similar to what you heard, was this is great. We got a guy with upside. Cool. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but really nice throw-in, and there's nothing wrong with that. And throw-ins sometimes become the key parts of deals. I mean, there was a trade the Royals made about 13 years ago that there was a guy, he wasn't exactly a throw-in, but Wade Davis was not the primary part of that deal. And we remember that. But yeah, Wiemer is interesting. Talk about an ugly swing, but it's real bad. But when he makes contact, it's loud contact. And I was just looking it up. He's average exit velocity 91, hard hit rate at 45%. That's really good. He barrels the ball relatively consistently. And some of that is small sample. Last night or yesterday actually boosted his numbers quite a bit. But he's interesting because he plays good defense. He's got a cannon for an arm. So that even if he's not hitting, there's at least some value there. I'd give him a shot. He was okay with the Brewers. Was it 2 years ago or 3? It was 2 years ago, and then struggled last year. Then went to the Reds and struggled in AAA. But he looked like there was something there at some point in 2023. I'd try that. John Ray, talk about the batted ball metrics. They were never good before. I'm looking it up right now. He's at his average exit velocity is much better. His hard hit rate is much better. He doesn't barrel it. but similar to Weimer, he plays defense. And, if you're not going to hit, and Melendez has actually been fine defensively this year, which I don't know if that'll stick, but
Right.
so that's not a complaint. But I mean, either one of those guys, you call them up and you stick them in a corner, and they're gonna catch the ball, which is better than nothing. The one thing on Rave, sorry, real quick,
Yeah.
every team has passed on him twice. So it's not just the Royals. Like, he was in the Rule 5 draft the last 2 years, and every single team has said, I don't think so. And it's different. You don't want to keep him on your roster all year necessarily, but that I think that's worth mentioning, that the Royals aren't the only team who have said, I don't think so.
Yeah, and I think that's the point here when it comes to the Royals is I don't know that anybody's saying John Ray will be the answer for the next 10 years, but could he make you a better ball club right now than a sub 100 batting average? And exit velo and all those things are great, and they are a great foreteller of what a guy's going to be over his career. But you're not asking – it's not like, listen, it's MJ Melendez or Ted Williams. Until we find Ted Williams, we're not moving on from MJ Melendez. I think the point about Ray, to you, David, David's point about, the numbers where they are, how about, who else has a bad exit velo? Doesn't Luis Arise? I know he has a bad bat speed. But Luis Arise, his exit velo can't be big because I know his bat speed is one of the lowest. You want to know why? Because what he does is consistently put the bat on the ball. And he's softball guy. He has figured out how hard he's got to swing to consistently put the bat on the ball and to get the ball over the infield and drop it in front of the outfield. And if that is what Rave has done, that is better than what you're getting right now, right? Like am I wrong, Les? I mean, not everybody has to be, the complete hitter. If you can just be a guy, they talk so much about passing the baton from a standpoint of being willing to take a walk and not try to do too much. Well, this guy, if he could not do too much into just a series of singles, that's better than what you're getting right now from Melendez, right?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think it's hard to compare Arise with John Rave right now.
Or anybody, really.
Yeah, because, Arise has done that in the big leagues. I would love to have a guy like Arise because Arise isn't just a guy that's going to get on and scrape and fight. I think he's only struck out twice this year. And so that's pretty impressive playing every day, and you're halfway to 100 at bats. So, yeah, Rave is the guy that can do those things. But again, we're not just missing one piece in the offense right now. I was sitting there thinking last night, okay, I can talk about this. If it was me, just put yourself out there. What would you do? Right now, I agree. I would send MJ Melendez down to AAA. I would probably give him more than a month. I'd give it maybe 2 months, like all-star break, reassess, and go ahead all the way down there until July and figure it out and see what happens. And if you don't, sorry. We've given you a lot of chances. I'd bring Weimer up. I'd let him play for a while. The best thing that Bob Boone ever did, maybe the only good thing that Bob Boone ever did for me, was say, okay, we stink in the outfield. You're playing every day, no matter what. No more of this pinch hitting once every few weeks. You're a good outfielder. You're going to play every day. And it just so happens in the first inning of that game, I ran into the wall and separated my right shoulder. Yay me. Way to go. So I would let him come up. I was watching Drew Waters swing last night. I'm not saying Drew Waters is the answer for sure, but he takes a lot better swings. He doesn't lose his footing. He doesn't move his head around. He got a hit last night. He swings at pitches he should swing at, and other pitches, even good pitches that are out of the zone, he takes. So he has zone awareness right now. So why not? I would release Hunter Renfroe, eat the money, and let him go. He has done nothing. He's continually getting worse if you look at it from last year. And then when you play a guy like that every other day or once every 3 games, he's not getting the timing down. You're helping him be worse. And so you might as well just cut bait. Bring up Weimer, let Kyle Isbell play center, let Drew Waters play, and then see what Rave is doing maybe in September at the end of the season and go from there. But the experiment with all this MJ Melendez stuff has got to be done. And I think in the notes you sent, what date? That date is probably 3 weeks ago that I would have let MJ Melendez go. And I'm not trying to be cute. It's just time, because in that clubhouse, there are guys that are going to say, look, are you really serious about making this team a winner? And I know they love MJ Melendez. He's a great guy. He fits in with the team on that personality level, but you don't get paid that amount of money to be really good in the clubhouse. You have to put the numbers up, and he's just not. And that will send the wrong message if they keep doing it.
The traditional markers are 40 games and their Memorial Day. And so as we pass those marks, there will be really very little in the way of excuses to not make
Right.
that move. When does it sit? We've had this question up here. A couple of people have mentioned Alec Zumwalt's name. I mentioned him in the open. This one's interesting for Chiefs fans. Zumwalt versus Andy Heck steel cage match. Winner gets to keep their job for the time being. If you're just a seam head, Andy Heck is the offensive line coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. So, some frustrations with the left tackle spot bleeding over from our Red Golden Bowl podcast. But when is it on his plate, David? I thought Sam McDowell, who came on with me on Tuesday on the radio show, had an interesting point. He said, everybody kind of has their own swing coach now back at either their agent's facility or whatever baseball academy they go to and work with. They kind of have their own guy. And so the hitting and pitching coach is less about your mechanics and that kind of stuff, and more about just here's the data, here's the approach, swing decisions, and those kind of things. That's fine. Okay. So then, Zumwalt is untouchable. There'll never be a time to make a change there, or how much of this blame should be on his desk in your mind, David?
Yeah, I think that hitting coaches are in today's game are less important than pitching coaches to me. I think the pitching coaches do a lot more with the individual hitter with the individual pitcher than hitting coaches do with the hitters, because you're right. Everybody's got their own coach.
The good news, by the way, is that Les didn't go, la, 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 la. I'm not la, la.
Not yet.
We might get there. I think part of it is, okay, at what point is it's the players, and you can't really fault a coach when everybody has gone bad, right? But at the same time, I look at two players. I've said this before, Vinny Pasquantino and MJ Melendez. They came up in 2022, and they both put together some of the most professional quality at-bats that we've seen in the Royals in years. And that's gone with both of them. Now, with Melendez, is that because he's struggling to hit and so he's trying to change, and is that Zumwalt's fault? I don't know. With Pasquantino, he hasn't really struggled to hit. I mean, he's had moments of struggle, and right now he's struggling, but he's been fine. And so I wonder a little bit. And the one stat that I keep looking at, and I noticed it a few days ago, and I've been tracking it, they take the first pitch almost 75% of the time. 3 out of every 4 at-bats, they are taking the first pitch. I haven't looked at the numbers since yesterday. But before yesterday's game, they called strike one 39.9% of the time. And the difference between first and second, they're first. The difference between first and second, I put this in the newsletter yesterday, is the same as the difference between second and between 18th and 19th.
Wow. So
what's happening is you've got these players who pitchers are not afraid to challenge in the first place because they're not hitting, which that's an issue. And that can change as the bats get hot, because they will. They're going to score. There's going to be an 8-game stretch where they score 46 runs, and we're not going to even notice it, really, but it'll just be fine for a while. But so pitchers aren't worried about that period, but they also have kind of started to realize, oh, that guy's not swinging. And I need to look this up real quick, and so they say, well, I'm going to lay this in there because it doesn't matter, because you don't need to throw a good pitch. You just need to throw a pitch in the strike zone, because the Royals are not going to swing the bat. That is a philosophy. There is no way you can tell me that every player is going up there taking the first pitch, and that's not the philosophy. And I don't know if it's a whole idea of, well, I'm going to, I'm going to work the pitch count. I'm going to get the pitch count up. If I take the first pitch, I'm getting 2 pitches regardless. I don't know, but it's wrong. And the Royals themselves, the words they use, they don't talk about plate discipline. They talk about swing decisions. And that is 100% correct, because you don't want to just take a bunch of pitches. It's nice when you do, obviously, yes, but you want to make the right decisions on swings. And first inning last night, Bobby Witt Jr. comes up to the plate, swings at the first pitch. I think it was 110 miles per hour, hit a line drive to center field. Would have loved if he got under it and drove it out of the park. He didn't. He scored anyway. It's fine. But the best pitch to swing at was that first pitch. And I put a heat map in yesterday's newsletter. The first pitch, the big red, right in the middle. Pitchers are throwing down the middle on the first pitch, and the Royals are taking it. And here's the numbers. On a 1-0 count, it is on the first pitch, hitters are hitting 341 with a 581 slugging percentage. After on 0-1, hitters, this is surprising, but better than I thought, 298 with a 453 slugging percentage. So your 50 or 40 points of batting average, 130 points of slugging percentage. 1-0, it's not that much different than first pitch. So if you're getting that pitch to hit, swing at it. And to the point about Zumwalt, is that a philosophy? And if that's a philosophy, is that coming from him? And if that's coming from him, it's got to stop. I'm not saying swing at every first pitch, but you need to be ready to hit on that first pitch and take a big swing and hit the ball. I'm not going to say you have to do 110 miles per hour like Witt did, because not a lot of guys can do that. But that to me is a bigger problem. That and the Pasquantino and Melendez regression, that points to maybe an issue with Zumwalt. And I say maybe. I don't know. And I'm not going to sit here and call for a guy's job. I feel really ick about that. But at the same time, it's a job. It's a game of performance. And if your hitters aren't performing, what are you going to do? And the other side of that, too, at sometimes a guy doesn't deserve to lose his job, but he has to. Because at some point, somebody's got to pay, and you need a different voice. And it's not that your voice is wrong. It's that these guys need something different. And maybe that voice would be great for somebody else.
Yeah, it's clear Andy Reid didn't forget how to coach in Philadelphia. He said it to me. I needed a new team. They needed a new voice. And maybe that's where you are with the hitters of the Kansas City Royals. I will also point out Kevin Seitzer was available. He has been one of the most acknowledged, best hitting guys out there. And he's a Royal. And, they kind of dismissively, we don't really have a spot open. Okay, well, then your guy needs to be better. Right. And it's not all fixed in Seattle. I will point out he didn't wave a wand and now everyone in Seattle's hitting, but we'll see what happens over the course of the year. Les, how about it? When is it Alec Zumwalt's fault, or when is it at least time that, whether it's not because he doesn't know hitting, everybody gets that, but just they need to make a change there just for something different?
Well, this is the problem I have with the analytics. And before anybody panics, I'm not against the analytics. I'm not total grumpy old man. Kind of grumpy old man.
Not total.
Not total.
Is it my turn to cover my ears?
Yes, absolutely it is. So I understand that. But in Atlanta, when Seitzer was in Atlanta and Freddie Freeman was there, they had this idea of and Kevin, I've learned a lot from Kevin Seitzer over the years. I mean, I love the fact listening to Kevin talk made me a better hitter. And in our one-on-one conversations, because he was a friend for years, where you stay inside the ball, you think gap to gap. And the reason for me that worked for me was because I was so pull side, and I would hook a lot of ball and waste a lot of strikes. And so staying inside the ball in an inside pitch helped me keep the ball fair so I could earn my doubles instead of earn my ground outs, because I was 0-2 every time up. And so if that's the theory of let's go ahead and take the first pitch, then it's a jacked up theory. I mean, I think maybe 7 times in my minor league career, I hit home runs on the first pitch of the game as a leadoff hitter, not because I was a home run hitter, because spread out over 10 minor league seasons, I think I barely hit 100 home runs for the average of 10.1. But still, even as a non-home run hitter, that's going to be probably the best pitch that you're going to see, because the pitcher is most relaxed. This is my get over pitch. And if word is out, and if we know it, all the other teams know it. If the word is out that the Royals take the first pitch, then what are you going to do? You're going to throw it right down the middle. So obviously, if the Royals are doing that, Bobby Witt Jr. is not falling into that. And look at how good he's doing that. That frustrates me when I watch Royals hitters take pitches, especially early in the count or first pitch, right down the middle. It is so unbelievably frustrating because, again, we're talking about MJ Melendez running into a pitch that was almost right down the middle. Even the bad hitters can hammer that pitch. You see me moving around. I'm getting so excited and crazy about this. So as far as Zumwalt goes, look, a lot of times hitting coaches become the scapegoat, the fall guy for an offense that's anemic. And you look, Renfroe does not swing like MJ Melendez, who does not swing like Michael Massey, who does not swing like Jonathan India. They're all under 200. So they're not the same mechanically, but you definitely then have to look at, well, what is the theory? Are we taking pitches? Are we, if the players are not doing what they should, then it's going to have to be to take it upon themselves to do a different theory. If your swing is your swing, that's fine, but pick up a different theory. My point on Freddie Freeman was Freddie Freeman didn't listen to Kevin Seitzer. Kevin Seitzer was the inside-out guy. Freddie Freeman has a very, very unique swing, and it didn't change for Freddie Freeman. And Freddie Freeman's going to be a Hall of Famer probably on the first or second ballot. And so there comes a time when, okay, we love you, Alec Zumwalt, but look, I'm not for anybody to lose their job. And if he's doing a good job, then keep him. However, my last point is that if you're putting all of that theory, except for your $500 million guy and Bobby Witt Jr., if your theory is not working, you either need to let these hitters be themselves, or are you just going to pick out MJ Melendez? Because what are you doing with Hunter Renfroe? Massey seems to be getting worse and his swing's getting longer, and he's hitting a lot of pop-ups. India is struggling early on, and we know he's the on-base percentage guy. And so there comes a time where you're going to have to put friendships aside and dig into the theory. And if it's not working, you have to move on. And don't even get me started on more than one hitting coach. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's take a break. We'll hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, and of course, David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world: home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations: North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, a couple more things we want to hit upon here in this edition. I like just kicking this around. Should the Royals have tried to move Lugo over Singer? And I think the only reason you would come to this conclusion, if he's one, you think Singer's got another level that you can get him to, and two, you think you could sign him and keep him in the mix. He's off to a good start. ERA just over 3 with Cincinnati, although I'll say it's been diminishing returns on each one of the 3 starts that he's had with Cincinnati. And let's see what that ballpark does when it's warm and what the left-handers do to him when it's warm. So this is not a statement. I want to be clear. The Royals made a mistake. That's not what I'm getting at. I just want to kind of cover the thought process that would have been there. Hey, we have a depth of pitching. We like Chris Bubich in the rotation. We're going to make a move for a leadoff hitter. And they moved Brady Singer. Limited no trade clause involved when it comes to trying to move Seth Lugo. But, you know, he's a guy that a lot of people, I watched this comment section in the Coffin Corner, people talk about the Royals should cash out on Lugo now. It's not going to get any better than this. And he's not off the same kind of start he was last year. David, should they have tried harder to make it Lugo instead of Singer, or in the end, did they get it right?
I personally think they got it right. I'm the resident Brady Singer hater, though, so you know, it's I'm the guy who's always down on Singer. But I think you look at who has the higher upside, and the answer is Lugo. And if you're trying to win, which they were and are, Lugo's the better bet. Lugo's your number 2 starter. I think that if the Royals were bad last year and Lugo finished second in the Cy Young vote, I think you flip it. I think you say, I don't care. We want to win, but it's not going to happen. We're going to move the guy with higher value, because Lugo has probably higher value, or had at the time, than Singer. So I think they made the right decision. I'm still watching Singer. It's interesting. You mentioned the diminishing returns. His first start, he threw, it was like 17% of his new cutter or something like that. 17.4%. His second start, 15.4%. His third start, 10.2%. We've seen this before. This is the Brady Singer experience. I have a new pitch. I'm going to throw it. I have a new pitch. I'm throwing it less. I had a new pitch. I'm not throwing it anymore. and that's the progression. So we'll see how he does. But I think they got it right based on their goals. And I also think, look, you talk about, is there another level in Brady Singer that the Royals could get out of him? I don't think so, because he had 2 years with Brian Sweeney in that group, and he had a good year last year. It finished really poorly. I mean, the numbers from August on, I guess August, September, were pretty much his 2023 numbers. And that's not to say he didn't have a good year. He ended up a lot of innings, 3.7 ERA. It was solid. He was a really good number 4 starter. But I think if you can get a leadoff hitter for a number 4 starter, you do it. I don't know what they could have gotten for Lugo, but I think they made the right call, but it is interesting to follow throughout the season.
Wes, what do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be really. As a matter of fact, I think if he would have stuck with his changeup more, with the movement on his fastball and his breaking pitch, and then if he added a cutter, I think he could have been an all-star. I mean, I still believe that's a possibility. I kind of hope he doesn't, because then all of a sudden it's going to look like the Royals really screwed up. But for him personally, that would be great. The problem is that he was so stubborn and wanted to do things his own way, to a point where he just almost wasn't willing. He's like, I'm going to hold my breath until I turn blue. I'm just not going to throw this changeup. And it was an effective pitch. And so Brady Singer does what Brady Singer wants to do. So I think it was the right move as well. I also think I agree with David that Lugo right now is probably not the guy. But you get closer to All-Star break and this trend continues where the Royals are at, then absolutely go ahead and see if you can get something from him. I don't think you take that off the table, because I think in the long run, you could probably get a couple good players that the Royals need for him. Wouldn't it be great that they'd be two corner outfielders who hit 300 and drop 25 bombs?
Yeah, that would be nice. And to do that, you've got to know that you've got a pitching pipeline coming.
Right.
And that's going to be one of the things to watch. Are there guys that are looking like they're ready? Is Noah Cameron looking like he's ready? Are guys turning the corner down there to where, you've got that Chris Bubich that you can lock and load the next year? That's what the Rays always had. They always had two more guys ready to go. And that's where the Royals have to get to. And that's how you do it, is you flip those assets while they're still valuable. You're moving to constantly make the ball club better, right? Not make sure that everybody can have their jersey they bought last year still be active on the field, which was, Dayton Moore's famous line, you buy a jersey, I'm not trying to mock him. I mean, his heart was in the right place, but you buy a jersey of a player, you can know he's going to be here. Well, that's a bad thing for a small market club, right? Because there's only a couple of them. Bobby Witt Jr., great, good plan. But there's a lot of other guys that need to be viewed more as commodities than a part of a lifetime, achievement award. All right, let's talk about Daniel Lynch. What's the right way to be using Daniel Lynch? Should he be moving up into a higher leverage role? I know a lot of people were frustrated with how the game was managed the other night. David, what is Daniel Lynch right now? How dominant are we ready to say he is? They had great numbers coming down the stretch last year, and then they completely abandoned him in the playoffs, so they weren't sold even.
Yeah, they like him in the bullpen. They do, obviously. Otherwise, they would put him in the AAA rotation to have depth there. I think he's got to go higher leverage right now, especially with Hunter Harvey out. Until Harvey comes back, Lynch is your third best reliever, and you have to use him as such. After you get past your top three relievers, I think you can use them in different ways. 4 through 8 can be 4 through 6 probably. 7 and 8 are probably mop up guys, or not necessarily the leverage relievers. But right now he's part of 1 through 3, and you've got to use him in those leverage spots, and you've got to use him to get the late innings. The Royals, they're undefeated this year when they lead after 6, and they've lost 2 games when they lead after 5. It's not a huge sample, but they've also only played 19 games. So you've got to figure out a way to get multiple innings out of him. I'm curious if he can go back-to-back days. We haven't seen it yet. I don't remember if he did last year or not. Now I'm trying to remember if he did. I think he did, but he hasn't this year. So that's an issue with him as your third best reliever. But I think you've got to get multiple innings out of him. And like on, what was it, Tuesday night? Yeah. When they went to Serpa, I understood why Quatrero went to Serpa, but why it was wrong is you can use Lynch for the 6th and the 7th. You don't need to say, okay, and they used Serpa that way too, but it was different because they give him the lead. But I think you utilize him in the way that his ability allows, and he can throw 2 or 3 innings. And you can be a long reliever and still be a leverage long reliever. And that could have been the instance right there. And they didn't use him, but I think he's got to be in leverage situations moving forward. And maybe even once Harvey gets back.
What do you see in Lynch? If you were having to face him, do you see a guy who's back end? Do you see a guy who's middle relief? What do you think the best role? They talked about him maybe fighting his way into the starting rotation. What do you see for Lynch, Les?
I don't know that it's the starting rotation. I'm the same. I want to see him in high leverage situations. I want to see him pitch more. And why are we not talking about the fact that he came in and immediately put one in Jazz Chisholm's backside? How outstanding. Well done. Of all the guys to drill right there. That's
gotta get Volpe too at some point.
Yeah.
But the the real one was the Chisholm one. So yeah, I would like to see him in there. I don't think he needs to be in the rotation. I think they have him and Zerpa backwards. Zerpa's got talent, throws hard, but there's this love affair with a guy who makes too many mistake pitches and then walks too many guys. And so I think Lynch, I mean, I don't want to see him overused, especially early in the season. But when you've got a guy like him with that kind of arm, you might as well use him. And I think he's being a little bit mismanaged right now. So for me, it's the high leverage situations. It's extending him more than one inning. Sometimes I think the Royals and even some other teams do this. They get in this formula of we're going to use him for one inning no matter what happens. We're going to use him for one inning no matter what happens. We don't have Herrera, Davis, and Holland anymore. We just don't have that. There's your seventh, there's your eighth, there's your ninth. We're not that good. We don't have three guys that are that good in the bullpen. So use the guys that are your best guys in those situations. Otherwise, you're going to keep losing games like we lose last night.
Yeah, no doubt. What's the earliest Jac Caglianone should get the call? He's cooled off. This was a discussion in the chat room a little bit earlier about, people talking about Jack coming up. They said, hey, he's hitting $1 the last handful of games or what have you. The numbers have cooled off, and we knew they would, David, but what's realistic for a timeline? We've talked about what the impact is before on getting draft pick compensation. So we don't need, that's there. But realistically, when is a guy pretty much fresh out of college going to be ready to get the call for the big leagues?
I think the earliest you could see is probably mid-June. I don't know that he'll be there necessarily by then, but I think it's, you get a month and a half in AA, you get a month in AAA, and all of a sudden it's June 15th and boom, you're up, good to go. And that's if everything goes perfectly. I think more realistically, I think given he hasn't struggled, but he's hitting 241 in AA. His OPS is under 900. For a guy who people thought should be in the big leagues to start, you should probably be OPSing 1100 in AA. If you're a big leaguer, you should probably be getting up there in two levels away from the majors. So I think you're probably looking at mid-August or so, which works out really well for the prospect incentives. And so earliest probably mid-June, but I think more realistically August, September. If he gets hot, things can change. But right now, that's where I'm feeling.
Wes, what do you think? How quick can a guy go from the SEC high level of college baseball to being big league ready?
Yeah, there's a lot of reality that has to happen here. And I know everybody's on the Jack train and we all want to see him here. And he's this massive dude that can hit balls 121 miles an hour, exit velo. That's great. But what we needed to see from him is going to happen right now. How do you handle adversity? He hasn't had adversity in his career, in his early career, and even in college. He hits so well. He's one of the best in the game. And so he hasn't had the chance to struggle yet. And nobody wants to struggle. Nobody wants to see him struggle. But how that pendulum swings back and forth, the pitcher hitter chess match going back and forth, is he going to continue to stay in the slide, or is he going to be able to get through it? How does he emotionally handle a struggle? We haven't seen that yet. Does he continue? I mean, I think if I saw the stat right this morning, percent of his at-bats are strikeouts right now. And so he is swinging and missing a little bit. And so that has to improve just a little bit. Again, I know that's going to be for a home run hitter. That's going to be high. That's fine. But I would still like to see a guy with a little bit more contact rate, because you're not just going to come to just because you did that at Florida doesn't mean you're going to come to the big leagues and you're going to hit 42 home runs or 45 home runs or whatever it is in that first season. And so I feel like before the All-Star break is premature, unless he, like David said, unless he goes off on some incredible streak where he's just hitting 5 to 7 bombs a week and he's hitting 420 and no matter who's pitching against it, that happens. So I just feel like post All-Star break at the earliest for him to come up. I still like to bring in Weimer up, let him and Drew Waters play the corners, unless there's some trade that we don't know about. And maybe after the All-Star break, let him come up and see what he can do, but be patient with him.
Yeah.
Now, I will say with him real quick, his swing rate is down significantly from last year, down to 50%, which is fine. Making less contact, swinging and missing more. But there is some, the biggest thing the Royals wanted to see from what I understood is the swing decisions. We're going back to that phrase, and they are better. But he is swinging and missing still, so it going to be a little time.
I think it's important to note. Like I had somebody kind of relate him, maybe right-handed Salvador Perez. right? Like, that was what you could be seeing, but with maybe even more power, right? But I want to be clear so that when he comes up, like there is still that swing and miss thing is something he's got to figure out. He can grow beyond that. And I think the Royals are one of those organizations that would never put a ceiling, on him. But I had a scout, who scouted him in college saying, you guys got Salvador Perez, maybe a right-handed Salvador Perez, or excuse me, left-handed Salvador Perez. That's kind of what you're looking at there. And it's like, okay, all right, that's pretty good, especially the 48 home run Salvador Perez. If it's like that. I mean, so that's something
post Tommy John Salvador Perez.
Yeah, and David's quoted the chase rate has been there going back to his days in college as well, right? It's something that he has done. Now he had hit the ball. Question is, does he start recognizing that I can't hit some of those balls that I did in college? Right, that's the swing decision that David's talking about for sure. 4 now with the Tigers, then an off day. They finally get a day off. This is a pretty long stretch for early in the year without an off day. Then they'll play 2 at home with Colorado before we talk to you next. Always pleased when you join us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast, and you can support us by supporting our great sponsors like David Starnes Allstate Insurance. I can tell you, David Starnes and his team doing a great job overhauling my insurance. You can give David and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. That's 816-781-7331. If you own a business, your parking lot is the first impression and the last impression you're going to leave with your clients, with your customers. Gann Asphalt and Concrete has been proudly serving Kansas City for more than 30 years with free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. They let you focus on your business. Don't have liability problems in your parking lot. Call Gann Asphalt and Concrete at 816-484-3338, online at GannAsphalt.com, and our friends at Whataburger. By the way, my favorite, the Patty Melt, is back at Whataburger. Go get it today. Also, I'm a huge fan of all their chicken items. Had a chicken sandwich the other day, and it was fantastic. Love the chicken fajita tacos when they had those. The chicken sandwich is absolutely fantastic. The Whataburger wings are great. It's at Whataburger. Remember, they're open 24 hours, and they serve breakfast 11 p to 11 a. For David Lesky from Inside the Crown, Les Norman from Breaking the Norm, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.